3, 4.
Welcome to A Fistful of Might, the adversarial libertarian interview podcast, a supplemental podcast to the Lolberts podcast, available at thelolberts.com. This podcast is covered by a Creative Commons Zero license. No rights reserved, but all mights reserved. Today we'll be sitting down with Graham Smith of Voluntarist Japan, a YouTuber and blogger who talks about blockchains, life in Japan, and voluntarism. Unfortunately, about 10 minutes of this podcast was lost due to a recording glitch, about 5 minutes or so into the podcast, and it was completely unrecoverable. I'm sorry, but let's get right in. So how are you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Nice to finally meet you.
Yeah, meet you. You don't get to see me, but I get to see you, which is fun.
Yeah, that's a bit voyeuristic, I suppose.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm doing good. Just woke up here, got the house to myself for a little bit, so a good time to do a live stream.
Nice. So, who are you, and why should we care? I think that's what I like going with every time I do
I don't know.
like these interview things.
Yeah. Okay. Who am I, and why should you care? That's a big one. Well, I'm just a guy that moved to Japan about 8 years ago. My name's Graham Smith. Became an anarchist, voluntarist, ANCAP, whatever you want to call it, here in Japan, and then started a bit of an online and offline initiative called Voluntary Japan, which is involved in, of course, spreading the message of individual self-ownership, the principled message, the apolitical message, involved in bringing the unschooling philosophy to Japan, a little bit of permaculture farming and direct trade and crypto. So kind of a big thing in that bubble, combined with showing folks on the outside, especially anarchist parts of Japanese culture that are very individualist, kind of shattering the prevalent stereotype, I guess, that everything here is a collectivist, kind of big march, and there's no sort of libertarian stuff here. So I've actually found myself feeling much more free and happy here, and that's about it right now. So I was blogging a lot on Steemit pretty much full time, and now I'm still there, but I'm doing other stuff. But that's about it. This is what I do full time right now. We'll see if that can last, but that's where I'm at this point.
Okay. What made you move to Japan? Was there anything in particular? Job?
I studied elementary education. I was already a libertarian at that point.
A woman you may remember recently on
I had a professor who basically turned me against public education, which I already was kind of against it. I liked kids, but I got into the school at the end of my little academic career there and saw what a prison it was, pretty much. And that's not an exaggeration. And I knew I couldn't do it. There was no way I could stomach it. There was no way I could work with the type of people that were teachers. And so I got out.
Sorry I missed most of that stuff because, again, this new live streaming thing is completely alien to me. And apparently on my other computer, it just started streaming and it was loud as hell. So,
okay.
Do you want to give me the condensed version of it?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, from the college thing. Or why did I come
to Japan? So you came here through college?
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically, the condensed version is I went to college to be a teacher, ended up reading myself out of that, had a rogue professor that turned me off to that, read a bunch of books, got into the public schools at the end of college, realized there's no fucking way I could handle it, stomach it. It's just an indoctrination camp, and then decided I want to see something other than my cornfield laden hometown before I got old. And decided to find a job here. So that's what I did.
It's kind of a different move. So So you describe yourself as a voluntarist. How do you define that? Because it seems like every time I talk to a voluntarist, they have kind of varying different opinions about what voluntarism means. Some people are more of the classical kind of voluntarist. I don't remember the original author who coined the term. Some people just use it as a descriptor for like, oh, I just follow the NAP consistently. So where do you find yourself?
Yeah, recently it's been a nightmare full of people that are calling themselves voluntarists. I mean, God.
We're going to get into that for sure.
Yeah, okay.
This is a very adversarial podcast for obvious reasons. But
yeah, that's why I like you, Jim Jesus. I like adversarial types. But
here's where we lost the recording. It was a bit of a shame because he did expand a little bit about what he thought about libertarianism, voluntarism, and issues with the non-aggression principle. We pick back up where I asked him about his experiences dealing with Adam Kokesh. Not much of the story was missing.
I was originally, like I said, a big fan of Kokesh. I saw some of his, dancing at the Jefferson Memorial type videos. But then he released he made a tweet and said, America doesn't need a ruler. America needs a leader, with a big fat picture of his grinning politician face on there. And I realized that something was off. Like, I could just feel it in my stomach. And obviously I kind of questioned him on that. I ended up on one of his Facebook live streams, actually, and said, well, how, regarding your presidential run, how are you going to acquire authority over all these resources and lands and stuff, through a federal election? That's not how property works. Mm-hmm. As per the voluntarist property ethic. And the real red flag for me was not a disagreement, but the way that he got really offended by that and immediately kind of made things personal and said, well, why don't you if you have a better idea, why don't you step up to the plate? And it struck me as not something a really intelligent person would say. Is we're not talking about who has a better idea, but we're talking about principle. And then from there, it just devolved, and it totally ended for me when he released a video saying that it's time to, quote, put down the ideology, or at least make it secondary to pursuing this great leap forward or something like that for humankind.
Please tell me he said great leap forward. That would be beautiful.
He said a great step forward. It was very Chairman Mao-ish.
Yeah.
But, I and several others said, well, what is the ideology you're calling us to put down? It's not radical Muslim ideology. It's not evangelical Christianity. It's individual self-ownership, which is just concrete reality, really. And, and then it all devolved. He's collected money for a book bomb that was supposed to happen in conjunction with the Libertarian National Convention in July. That never happened.
For his book Freedom, right?
Yeah, for the greatest book ever written, all caps, as how he always describes it.
Which it's sad that the greatest book in the world is a ripoff of just Rothbard. And he even admits that he ripped them off. Right.
And he doesn't even agree with, like, it's Huckster 101. Like, you get the literature that says everything right, and then you do the opposite. And then when people call you on what you're doing, you point them back and say, look, I wrote the book. The book's right on. Mm-hmm. But he never did the book bomb. He sold advertising space, I guess, or like you could buy a spot on the first page. He sold all that. People bought that, and now he's making videos saying maybe we'll do the book bomb. I think they're about $60,000 in or something. I don't know the exact amount. Suspended his presidential run, which he collected a bunch of money to run for senator in Arizona. Doing all these videos.
So he's not running for president now?
It's suspended. So he's running for senator now. Releasing all these videos of himself superimposed on American flags, talking, when you start the research, when I woke up, he's doing pull-ups superimposed with American flags. Like, I don't know. I started researching, and you realize the guy's a career politician ever since he came back from Iraq. He's been running for some sort of political office or collecting donations for some scheme. I'm not against collecting donations, and when you look at the guy's track record, and then when you try to deal with the guy, it becomes apparent that something is wrong on a deeper personal level as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, it all quite unraveled. To me, he's your typical huckster. He's over on Steemit, which I've been really active on for 2 years. And he was talking about how he loves the community. When the prices go down, he vanishes. He hasn't posted there for 13 days or so, I think. first time he left Steemit was because he was, quote, pissed that his article made only $1,000. I don't know. The dude's weird, man. And I've finally given up. But a glimmer of hope has come through after all my bitching constantly for like 2 years now.
Yeah.
And a lot of his disciples telling me, you know, you're just jealous or you're just this or that. Or you're being divisive. Now people are starting to wake up because he's just becoming more and more fucking goddamn ridiculous. You know, and as we mentioned, now he's making videos of himself shirtless, like a Chippendales dancer cutting down tiny trees on his property, saying the trees are the government. I don't know, man. He's just and as you mentioned, a lot of even his former fans are like, all right, dude, what's going on? Are you okay?
Yeah.
And I've started to even take that tack. Like, I almost feel sorry for him. And I'm not saying this to seem cool, but it seems like the dude really is like grasping at straws for some sort of, you know, I don't know. It's bizarre for sure. But as far as a principled level, yeah, that tweet where he said, "You need me as your leader," that was the big red flag initially.
Yeah.
So yeah. So this is something people say, "Oh, you're obsessed with Kokesh," and I kind of have been, just because of the pull and the sway he has had, and just the being frustrated at the absolute brainwash, especially for newbies. And he's surrounded himself with people that use the black and yellow in their logos and say they're voluntarists, and then advocate outright what's basically socialism. So, you know, it's typical. It's like being in high school. It's like the cool, popular kids, you know, mock the nerd with the actual argument. So
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah, and I kind of experienced a similar type of thing with Molyneux fans. I had a lot of people who were very upset with me that I would call Molyneux for what he was at the time. He was DMCAing a critic, and it's funny now listening to him complain about almost getting banned from YouTube because, like, oh, they're silencing my free speech. It's like, well, what about True Shives, right? But I had all these people who were critical of me, and then a lot of them started coming up to me later, like after he's got on the Trump train and all this other stuff.
Yep.
They were like, "Yeah, you were right.
Yep.
You were right. I'm sorry." And I had a recent experience with one of these armored skeptic type YouTubers. Same thing. Yeah, you were right about this guy. He was just a terrible, degenerate furry after all. So, yeah, like I kind of understand that, but that's kind of why I started becoming a real big fan, even though I had some disagreements with stuff.
For sure.
Mostly around Steemit. I'm not a fan of Steemit. I've been very vocal against Steemit for a while.
Well, hey, recently I'm starting to lean a little bit more to the skeptical side there as well. So.
Oh, why is that? Well, maybe we should not bury the lead just in case nobody knows what Steemit is. We should probably talk about what Steemit is. I'll let you describe it since you've been in it for.
Sure. So Steemit's just a blockchain-based social media site with its own cryptocurrency called Steem, which has 3 iterations actually, but that's not really important for an introduction. But it's been around for a little over 2 years now, and I've been blogging there for a little over 2 years now. I jumped in pretty early. But yeah, that's what it is. It's been great for a lot of people. It's been great for me. It's allowed me to quit my job job that I didn't like. However, recently there's some stuff happening and a lack of progress and just a general kind of what I feel is a lack of interest from big investors and curators. And there's a lot of competition popping up now, which I think is a good thing. Yeah. So I'm still on Steemit, but for example, recently there was a big hard fork 20. And typically during these hard forks, the site will sometimes go down. But this time it was like 10 plus hours, not a word of notification on the landing page, bunch of people arguing, and you've got people $1,000 and the page is showing up. This page does not exist. And not everyone understands how to use the blockchain without the Steemit.com interface. It's just started to seem terribly unprofessional to me. Linking this to Adam Kokesh, he came in, milked the place, got tons of support. And in my view, and maybe I'm a bit biased here, and I'm not trying to have a complain sort of pity party, but he really kind of milked support away from a lot of really high quality content producers because the big investors there knew he was a big name, didn't read what he was writing about let's take the great leap forward, and just started upvoting his stuff. And not even in his circle, but it's basically become a circle jerk in a lot of senses. So I've started to try out different blockchain-based alternatives. And I'm a bit skeptical now. And it's interesting because as I voice this skepticism, it's like this kind of you're either with us or against us mentality.
There we go again. Yeah. It was like, this again?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, you're an atheist, so you must be an anti-theist. It's that kind of thing, and it's like this is coming from people that just joined recently, and it's like, yo, fuckhead. Sorry, I've been here for 2 years doing like 3 or 4 posts a day almost. I'm not anti-Steemit, but it's pretty discouraging right now, and the interaction and engagement is, it's just. As Bloomberg said, when Ned from Steemit, the CEO, was on Bloomberg, they said we go to the trending page and it looks just like a spam site. And I'm sorry, but it does. Even the design. So, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I still love it. It's changed my fucking life. I've honed my blogging there. I've met a lot of cool people in real life, and that's kind of why I like it there. But, at this point, it's like I can get more engagement really by doing a Facebook post. And, I'm not going to spend 15 hours of my day for $4 right now because I have bills to pay.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I don't want to ramble too much, but that's kind of where I'm at on Steemit right now. So you said you're skeptical, though, or you have been from the start?
I have been from the start. Like when I first heard about it at Jackfest. There was one particular guy, and it ended up becoming like a meme for the entire event with everyone there. Was like, hey, have you ever heard about Steemit? Because we had a guy who was like, every single person he came in contact with, he was asking like, do you know Steemit? Every time he did, he would forget how many times he was advocating it. So he would come up to you like 4 or 5 times. Like, have you heard of the Steemit? I'm going to post this thing on Steemit. I'm going to get a whole bunch of money, and I'm going to make it big on Steemit. And last time I checked on his thing, like he wasn't going anywhere with it.
Right.
And so we were like, okay, what is this thing? And I was just like, it sounds kind of scammy or whatever. And then there was another guy who hit me after he left it. I was like, what the heck is this thing about? And he was like, oh, I know what it is. It's like this website. It's almost like a social media thing. And he's just really poor at explaining it. It's kind of neat. There's a lot of interesting people on there, but it's not as magical as he says it is. And I was like, oh, okay. So I went home and checked it out. And after browsing it, I became like immediately skeptical because just the incentive problem for it. I know Brian Sovereign did a really good kind of critique about it on his podcast about the same time that happened, and on his Patreon only, which got me to be a patron of his because of this, because I wanted to hear this critique. And by the way, it's probably the best Patreon dollar I ever spend a month. I think it's not 2. Anyways, so but the real problem that I have with it, aside from kind of like how there's kind of not really pump and dump schemes with it, but like the whales kind of almost make it to be that way. The main issue that I have with it is that it incentivizes collective thought, which is you want people to agree with you, because if you get people to agree with you, then they'll upvote your post. If they upvote your post, then you're financially incentivized to keep posting more things that more people are going to agree with, and you're going to lack diversity of thought, and everybody's just going to be kind of agreeing with each other the whole time. And like when you said that, like they were circle jerking, I was like,
which to your credit is what is what it has devolved into. Yeah. That's what it has devolved into for sure.
Yeah, because if I go on there and I start doing what I normally do, which is going after people that are beloved, right? Because I am the adversary. I really do like the Satanist aesthetic, but I do kind of come off as like an adversary for a lot of like anarcho-capitalist libertarians and stuff, because I think there's a lot of scammers and bullshit artists and cult leaders that are involved in this, and I want to call them out so that way it's, so that way we can get some good people in there that speak out, because there are some good people too. Like I love Tom Woods.
There's a lot of good people.
There's a lot of really great people, and I wish that those people would get more prominence rather than people like Kokesh and Molyneux and Berwick, who was involved in Steem earlier on, and then he left too.
Berwick caused the great migration, actually, back 2 years ago in the summer, because he made that one paragraph post that garnered 15 Gs, and everyone's like, holy shit. I was on like a week before that, but when I heard that, that's when I started getting really serious. But it's funny what you say, because I had some pretty big support from some pretty big people, but once I started to criticize the Kokeshian March to Unity, I lost a whole lot of support. So that was pretty telling. So yeah, I think you're onto something there.
Yeah, I think it's a bad idea to financially incentivize kind of like a opinion post. I mean, it's a good idea to have like advertisements on something, or to have encourage people to like donate to your cause if they really enjoy it. But I think it's another thing to have a platform where you're incentivizing people to like create something that a lot of people will upvote. And it doesn't cost them anything to upvote, but you're just trying to get as much upvotes as possible, because the more upvotes you get, the more money you get. And so people are financially incentivized to say things that will get the most upvotes, not the things that are necessarily true, or not the necessarily things that need to be said, but things that people want to hear. So everything's going to be a giant circle jerk hug box. And I don't have time for that. I don't have time for that.
There's a couple platforms emerging now that have some different ideas about like communities and stuff, which seems to balance things out a bit. But it's interesting what happened at Steemit. Yeah, it's definitely it's become just the top down thing. You know, it's definitely people trying to cheerlead, and then the moment someone disagrees, like D Live, this huge platform, left, and they're switching blockchains, and everyone got so pissed at them, and I'm actually enjoying it. All the whining because they said, oh, this is a conspiracy. You guys plan to use the Steemit delegation, the Steemit money, and then you already knew you were going to switch blockchains. And it's like, well, that's kind of what this whole thing always has been. And, they weren't getting the performance they wanted from Steemit. They made some similar points and critiques as you have. And now everyone's losing their shit because it's almost a religious thing. But when I saw they were leaving, I was kind of like, well, good for you guys. Let's let the market compete. I think the good thing about incentivization was, for me, like I did work harder to put out some quality shit. But I think there needs to be some kind of community structure in there or something, so it doesn't turn into that hug box, which sadly now it is a big spammy hug box with a lot of cool people that aren't getting any recognition.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I know some authors that are on there. One of my co-hosts is really big into Steemit, Jeremy Heisenberger, which I call him. You just had him on not too long ago, if I recall correctly. Okay.
Yeah. So there's a lot of cool people, but like Jeremy's articles, you see them making like 78 cents, or if he gets a DTube upvote, it might be $13. But then you'll get like really spammy shit that's getting paid over $100 or something. It's just, it's kind of discouraging. There's a lot of really good writers on there too, but you don't have to be a good writer. You don't have to say anything original. You just have to try to make everyone feel good about Steemit while the ship sinks. Yeah. It's like cheerleading the Titanic while the Titanic fucking sinks. Yay, Titanic!
Yeah, when I first was looking at it, about 95% of the posts on Steemit were about Steemit.
Yep.
And I was like, why am... It's a meta social media network where it's like everybody's like, instead of posting pictures about their life, they're posting pictures about the platform they're posting pictures on. So it's like, I don't know. This does not seem right. I don't see where the value is really coming. But maybe that'll change, and it did change, because there was some people who came in later and started posting stuff that wasn't Steemit related. And every time I've been on it since, just looking around, it hasn't been the case. So, but at first it was just like, why are we talking about why is this the only thing to talk about right now, or whatever?
Yeah, and supposedly smart media tokens are coming soon. Everything's always coming soon in everything blockchain. Yeah. But that is going to hopefully empower people such as Jeremy and other guys to decide how they can reward people in the community instead of being subject to the rich folks up at the top that don't really give a damn about content. So yeah, I don't know. It reminds me of a big room where everyone's just passing $100 bills around to themselves. It's like, this isn't really going anywhere.
Yeah, it's
kind of like multi-line marketing. You got to get suckers to come in from the bottom to keep funding the thing.
Yeah,
because you're not really, I don't know. And the people that actually are adding value are kind of just, kept outside of the $100 bill passing room.
It almost reminds me of an episode of Beavis and Butthead, which, wow, I don't think I've ever had to reference that show in a conversation that wasn't about entertainment. But there was an episode where they had boxes of chocolate bars. They were raising money for this fundraisers for schools. And he would go like, I got $1, let me buy a candy bar. Yeah. And then he would give the $1 back to him to buy another candy bar. So they're just passing the $1 back and forth for free candy bars. It's almost like that.
Yeah. That's so good. Like that's almost a paradox. Cause I remember watching that episode and be like, wait, that kind of makes sense, but it totally doesn't. It's just funny.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is kind of a good metaphor for Steemit in a way.
Yeah, I've been kind of just hesitant on about any social media platform, just because I just don't like the concept of social media. But it's here; you have to kind of utilize it to an extent. Like I don't post anything personal on my Facebook anymore, and when I do, I think it's because it just needs to be posted there for whatever reason, be it my podcast or whatever. But my personal stuff, yeah, I think I've maybe posted maybe like 5 things in the last 6 months or so. And before that, I was just like, I'm just done with Facebook. I'm just going to annoy the shit out of everybody to get everybody off Facebook as well. And so I spent a good like 2 months posting nothing but Trout Mask replica stuff. Like song Trout Mask Replica. It's an album by Captain Beefheart and his Magic Band.
Okay.
And if you listen to it, you'll understand why it's probably a good idea to post that if you're trying to drive people away. Which I do enjoy the album, but I can see why people don't, very much don't. And so I was just posting nothing but this stuff all the time, and Facebook was actually getting mad. They thought I was spamming. They're like, "We think your account's been compromised." Like, nope, that's me. And every time I would say like, "No, that's me," I'd go and it's like Facebook thinks that I'm spamming, but I'm not. This is really how I feel, and post like Moonlight on Vermont or something. And people are like, "What the fuck are you posting this for?" Because I just can't stand social media. I think the only one that I actually enjoy is Twitter, just because it's short and it's making usually people are trying to be funny in it, and a lot of times it lands, and I get a lot of humor out of it. And you can also troll people that you would never normally talk to. I always think that's great. But for the most part, like I don't participate in any other real communities. Occasionally I'll dab into Instagram, but that's about it. I know that there's like MeWe that's been coming out, Gab. And I'm just not kind of interested in these platforms. And every time I try to get interested, I'm like, I don't want to invest in another social media platform and put time and effort into building something, especially into something like Gab, where, unless you're spouting like crazy, like racist stuff, like there's not really much else on there. There's just not. I tried to find some good people on there. I mean, like Tom Woods is on there, but he doesn't post anything. Like everybody's like that. Unless you're like the Christopher Cantwell and Jared Howe types, there's nothing there for you. So I don't see a point in it.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I understand that. Facebook makes me feel dirty anymore. Like I feel like I need to take a shower every time I use Facebook. But there's so much attention there. It's funny. There's another blockchain-based social media called Scorum, which unfortunately sounds like scrotum to me, but it's sports-based. And that was such a relief. Like, I'm not a sports guy, but I do run sometimes just in my own enjoyment. And being over there in a social media platform that's just about sports is such a big relief compared to all the bullshit toxicity, you know what I mean, on some other platforms. So, yeah, I'm into that one, blogging about running and stuff. But, I like Facebook. Like, I deleted all my shit a while back and then recently kind of lapsed back into posting again. But I think it's probably good not to put too much personal shit on there.
Mm-hmm. Especially all the revelations have been coming out. But People have been
Oh,
saying
yeah.
that for quite some time, and a lot of people were saying like, "Oh no, you're crazy," and I was like, "Dude, just read the TOS. It says all that stuff in there.
Right,
That
right.
they're going to sell off all your information. Why are you surprised when they get caught doing it?
Yep,
In the
yep.
contract you signed."
I totally gave up on any hope of privacy from them. Like, it's like, well,
Mhm.
I'm just going to use this to spread uh, voluntarist posts and whatever, because if there are these lists, if there are like, if they are collecting my data, like I'm already fucked. Like,
Yeah.
might as well go all out and see how fucked I can get and how much I can fuck shit up, while they're doing
Yep.
this. But it is weird, and recently it's like you said, they're giving you messages. There's more and more creepy stuff coming out, like the advertisements they're sending me, the pop-ups you get about, we noticed that you are balding. Would you like, it's like
Yeah.
the weird shit. Like, it's pretty creepy, man.
Yeah, the stuff that really worries me is when I used to have the app on my phone, which I deleted all that shit after I started noticing this, is that I'd be talking to a friend about something. Like I'd be talking to a friend about, I don't know, some kind of new technology or something, like something very specific, kind of niche, right? Like Raspberry Pi. I'll talk about like Raspberry Pi, and then I'll go and I'll check my Facebook, and then I'm seeing like a bunch of advertisements for like places to sell me like Raspberry Pis, and I'm like,
That's nuts.
yeah, and it says on there that they take control of your stuff. Google as well. Google does the same thing. I think there was another scandal with them where they were like, you can go and find some of the stuff that they were storing on their servers that are like things that are just being recorded at random on your phone, and then not even when your screen is on, just when you have it on, they're listening to you, and then they're using that for targeted advertising. Which,
Yeah.
it'd be better to have advertisements targeted towards you, so you're more interested in the things that they're advertising towards you. I can understand that. Like, I don't want to see advertisements for things like Mountain Dew and tampons, because I'm never going to buy those things in my life. But at the expense of what? At the expense of my privacy?
Right, right.
I'm going to pass on that. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm really skeptical about any kind of social media platform, even if they're ran by people who are better people than Mark Zuckerberg. I would say the people that run like Gab and MeWe and Steemit, like those people are probably in better headspace than Zuckerberg or Larry Page or any of these people, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Jack.
Well, just the whole idea. I mean, I was watching something. I forget what it was. Basically, some former CIA guy talking about every keystroke you make on any device can be logged. I mean, we're basically carrying around like tracking devices with us everywhere you go. So it's like, and social media is just like, those kind of details about your life, like, Jim Jesus likes Raspberry Pi. It's like, that is the ultimate wet dream of any intelligence agency, is those mundane type of details. So yeah, it's definitely there. And people are willingly like, here's 1,400 naked pictures of my kid. Here's, I don't know, here's my dinner. Here's whatever every day. Here's where I run. Here's where I walk.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's for sure questionable.
Yeah, so that's why I kind of stay away from it. And I always tell people the same thing. Like, anytime there's a big controversy about it, I'm like, then get off of these platforms. Stop allowing them to have your information. If you do use things, don't use their apps, use their websites. I don't know too much about Twitter in terms of like their privacy stuff, but I don't know. I just have too much fun trolling people on there. I'll take it. I'll take that kind of privacy violations for that.
Twitter's fun, but they're total fucking Nazis, man. If you post something that they don't like, I don't know if you've been blocked before, but I had my account disabled, and it's not like a polite message. It's like, delete this or you are gone forever.
Yeah.
Mine was just a test too. It was really weird. Someone said you can't ask this question. It was about John Podesta's brother, and it was some sort of benign question, but they've involved in blah blah blah. It was nothing about child porn or anything, and immediately my account got axed.
Oof.
And it was really creepy. And it's happened a couple times. Like, your account's doing suspicious things because we think so. please give us your phone number. And there's no option to, no, my account's not doing suspicious things. I don't want to share my phone number or whatever. It's like, no, you have to do it, or you can't participate.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that said, as far as the experience of like the short form, people are actually saying witty stuff that's entertaining and not just bitching and moaning all the time. I do quite enjoy Twitter for that purpose.
Yeah. You just kind of, at the end of the day, you really just have to know how to play the game when it comes to Twitter. You just know what you're not allowed to say. They make it pretty clear. And if you just do those things, you'll be fine. Like there was recently someone who got banned from Twitter, and they were just constantly posting stuff about David Hogg, and people were getting banned all over all over the space. Like if you said anything negative towards David Hogg, who was like the Parkland shooter survivor kid, the one that goes around saying take everyone's gun. I don't want to bury the lead. Sorry. The people were getting their accounts suspended, and they would do that same thing, like delete this or else you're off the platform forever. And I knew people who were doing it just to get banned from the thing, just to prove a point. Like, no, we need to be able to say this stuff, which I agree with them in spirit, but at the same time, you can't then turn around and complain that you got banned, because that was the rule. It was explained to you. You had the option to delete the stuff, and and this is their platform. They can choose how you want it to, and we're fully free to disagree with them, which I do disagree with them, but you got to know how to play the game. You got to know how to play the game. And if you're going to post on Facebook, you have to know their game too, and be aware that they're going to be selling all your stuff off to the highest bidder. And not only that, but Facebook is like, I think the number one.
Don't play the game.
Yeah. If Facebook is actually the number one purchaser of M discs, which I don't know if you know what M discs are.
I don't know.
Okay. They're basically like DVDs or Blu-ray media that is actually like when you put it in your burner, it basically etches it in stone, and they're good for 1,000 years. Like
wow.
They won't rot or anything. And Facebook buys these things in bulk. They're like the number one purchaser of these things, because they put all that information that you're posting, all the places that you go, all the restaurants and places that not even that you checked in, they just know that you went there. Yeah. They put all that stuff on discs and save it. So if anything happens to their storage facility, their hard drives, they got it all backed up. They can all just throw them back in the machines and get all their stuff recovered. So you got to be careful with that. Just know the game that you're playing.
That's true. I knew shit was off when I first tried to delete an account there, and you can't really delete. You can deactivate. It's like you can check out, but you can never leave, kind of thing. It's pretty obvious at that point that what they're up to is data collection.
Yeah.
And not really. But the thing is, though, the attention is there. That's the appeal of it. There's such mass attention focus there that it's like, I get it, and that's why I post there, and you get the engagement, and people are there, and it is a sense of community and connection. Sadly, I think it's missing from a lot of people's personal lives in meat space. But it's like a dopamine rush for sure. You see all those likes and talk to people, and there's a lot of fucking cool voluntarists on there, and cool people in general. So it's kind of that double-edged sword. There's a lot of cool groups, yeah. So every time I've quit Facebook, it's always been like, well, there's nothing answering that attention void, and now I don't have contact with all these people, so I inevitably come back. Mm-hmm. I'm not quite sure what to make of that, but that's just what it is.
Like I've bought advertisements on Facebook, and they've worked pretty well. Not great, but pretty well. Especially for the adult, especially just paying $5 for a month worth of advertisement. We got a couple people, which is great. For $5, you get a couple people come to your event, which normally we only have like a couple people anyway. So that's double. So I mean, so there's little things like that that do work, and this is like an attention war that's happening right now, and everybody needs to get their slice of attention, especially if in this kind of new digital age that we're in, where you can make a perfectly good living doing well and spreading good ideas on these platforms, but you got to know how to play the game. You have to know how to play the game, and you can't complain that they won't let me talk about David Hogg. Like, but they told you that. They told you can't do that, so don't get upset.
For sure.
So what are some of these new alternatives that are coming out for Steemit that I haven't heard of yet? This is all new.
Well, let's see. Yeah, there's one called Scorum, that's all sports themed.
Mm-hmm.
But I've actually been doing quite well there. Who knows if it'll meet the same fate as Steemit. Had an issue recently with their plagiarism checker, which is this weird algorithm. I quoted one small passage and cited the author, and they go by how long your article is versus what percentage of that chunk of length matches up with stuff from quote sites on the internet. And it's like, well, you will receive 67% of the payout for your post. That's, pretty shitty. But Scorum narrative has not launched yet. Narrative.org. It's got a pretty cool community model where you can actually suggest a niche and a community. People vote on that. You can buy it and own it, and you'll get like some percentage of the proceeds from all the activity within that niche. So they're kind of putting some barriers in place where Steemit had none. So in other words, like, the fluff masters on top can't really totally control what you do in your community. So Narrative, Scorum, BitTube, which is another blockchain, another cryptocurrency, but it's like YouTube. It's actually a privacy coin, which is kind of interesting. BitTube, which I've signed up there, but it's like there's so many of these sites. I've got so many accounts and passwords now. It's like I'm probably just gonna, fucking lose everything. So
you got to be careful.
Like, yay! Now I got nothing.
Yeah, you don't want to create accounts on everything. You want to have some sort of account minimalism. It's a great way to get hacked.
Yeah, for sure. And every day it's like one of my friends is telling me about, hey, check this out. It's like, okay, I already got 14,000 new accounts and passwords. But yeah, Scorum, Narrative, BitTube. You mentioned MeWe and Minds, I think, or you didn't mention Minds.
Oh, no, that's a thing. But no, I talked about
Gab. I'm not involved on those. I'm on Narrative and Scorum. And beyond that, man, I just I can't really keep up too much. There's one more, a BitChute. Yeah, it's not blockchain, but
it's BitTorrent.
Yeah, BitTorrent, which is a cool idea. I'm not active on there, but I'm on there.
Yeah.
But so far the competition for Steemit, as I see it, is like DLive, who has just left Steemit, which everyone's pissed about, because they're getting huge and they actually care about their community. And lo and behold, the Steem blockchain wasn't serving them well, so they took off, and now everyone's pissed. But they're cool. DLive, Narrative, Scorum, and BitTube, I think, are the big up and coming sources of potential competition for Steemit. But Steemit, actually, the active usership is I think around Christmas, or when Steem was over $1, it was like 60,000 active users, and now it's dwindled to around 15,000 or less. It's kind of ghost townish right now if you visit the site.
Okay. Yeah. So what exactly is the voluntarist, libertarian, etc. kind of community out there in Japan? I know from what I've seen, you don't really talk too much about it. I mean, I've heard you say things here and there, but what's the comprehensive version to someone who's looking to like expat or something? What could they expect?
Well, what I'll tell you is this: basically, contrary to what people's image they might have of Japan being kind of a collectivist hell, if you're a foreigner, and even if you're Japanese, most people here in real life, everyday life in your community, don't give a shit what you do, and mind their own business, and actually don't really want to talk to you in a lot of ways. People are cool, people are nice. So what I've found here is, while the image is one of collectivism, I'm able to live my life more freely and unmolested by police and whatever in general than I was in the States. A lot of Japanese people live kind of what I view as voluntarist, libertarian lives, but they would never think to identify it as such, because the idea that you can even identify as such a thing has probably never entered their mind. So there is a lot of like collectivist nightmare shit on the state level here. And if you're Japanese, you're subject to a lot of it, like unpaid overtime and shit like that. That stuff does exist, slowly changing. But on day to day, everyone pretty much minds their business. I'm not afraid of cops in the street. I can take an alcoholic beverage outside without getting my face slammed in the pavement.
I'm from
I can
Vegas, so that's the. I know what you mean.
Yeah,
We're able to do that here too. So
right, I remember that.
Yeah.
That was a big thing. The one time I did visit Vegas, me and my buddies were like, "We're in the street with beer." Yeah, it's pretty cool. But that gardening, you'll be in the middle of even metropolitan areas here, and there'll be gardens. People starting businesses. Fire code is somewhat lax. There's not a lot of regulations. Like, you're not going to get busted if you try to start like selling fruit on the side of the road.
No, that's cool.
It's just kind of like, don't be a dick is still a thing here. And as much as I hate the state, and there's some very dark, hugely draconian aspects of the Japanese state, which are way worse than the U.S., ironically, results of U.S. policy. But while that exists, it's still pretty... There's aspects of lower levels of government that still the individuals therein will not just fuck with you for the sake of fucking with you. Like, there's no real CPS, Child Protective Services type kidnapping here. Like, you're not going to get sued if your kid's playing in the street across the park, and you're not there. If you're in your house and you can see them, stuff like that. Kids walk to school. I don't know. It's a different society. So if you're an expat, most of the voluntarists you'll find will probably be fellow expats. A lot of your Japanese friends might be closet voluntarists, and there are voluntarists self-identified in Tokyo. But what I've found is that I feel I was in the States. So
I'm sorry. Can you repeat? Can you repeat that? There was like a hiccup.
Yeah. So like, I just forgot what I said.
I hate that. I know what you mean. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's cool. Most voluntarists you'll find that are outwardly identified themselves as such will probably be fellow expats. Okay. However, like in Tokyo, there are Japanese self-identified voluntarists. There's lots of hippies here and lots of people here who understand individual self-ownership, that both explicitly say that, and then a lot that just implicitly live it as part of the culture of just, what's the big deal? Let's not fuck with each other. One big bad thing, though, for people that are considering maybe relocating to Japan is that marijuana is treated like heroin here.
Oh,
that's my I'm not a pothead. I never was, but I did enjoy smoking now and then. But you can get 5 to 9 years hard labor here if you're just caught with any amount. There's a massive culture campaign here to totally demonize it, which was put in place by the U.S. after World War II. It used to grow everywhere here, which is wild. Like, the motif of the cannabis leaf is still carved into the woodwork of a lot of Shinto temples here. But now it's just that's one negative thing. So if you don't need to smoke cannabis all the time, I think it's a decent place to be. But I guess that's my overall impression of it. I just feel happy here. I became a voluntarist here. And I just don't feel like people aren't really looking into my business as much.
Yeah. So I guess there's always trade-offs anywhere where you go.
Yeah, for sure.
The one thing that I've kind of understood from a lot of kind of Eastern countries is that they don't really view the state as like Americans. We kind of view the state as like, oh, this kind of agency that tells us what to do, and sure, they're a necessary evil. Like, not me, like I have a much more radical view of that, but for the most part, most people here have this kind of view of, yeah, they're for the benefit, but they're kind of annoying and they're kind of assholes, and I wish they would do better and stay out of my life. Whereas if you go in more towards Eastern countries, they view the state more as like a parent that, that's not just necessary, but it's so good, and everything they do is really good. And sure, we may have some lovers quarrels, and we're sure we want them to change in certain ways, but for the most part, like, do they almost need to be worshipped like you would worship your parents under kind of like Christian kind of viewpoints. Is that the kind of the case in Japan? I know that's the case in China.
Yeah, I mean, there is this kind of acceptance of, like, well, with some people, that's just the way it is. And there is this big idea here, which is almost, I think, worse than in the States sometimes, which is that we're all one community together. We all need to band together. And thinking for yourself is kind of a bad thing. So I don't know if that's directly answering the question, but part of the thing I want to do here with the voluntary Japan too is kind of introduce the idea to my friends here that it's okay to think for yourself. It's okay to disagree. And more young people are doing that. But yeah, the state is still viewed as basically a god. I mean, it used to be that the emperor was actually viewed as a magical, shiny guy that came from heaven. So, that was not that long ago. So it's still alive, But similar, I would say, to the way the president is viewed. It's not much different than the divine right to rule type of thing.
Yeah.
So, but the individualism, that kind of thing, nobody here understands. Like, wow, your dad had a shotgun in the closet when you grew up. That's insane. Like, that's just insane to people here. And they'll just, one of the first questions they'll ask you if you're visiting or you come here as a teacher is, did you have a gun? Have you ever shot a gun? And it's like, yeah, lots of people had guns. They're like, oh my God, weren't you scared? Like, no. But I understand it after being here for 8 years. No one has a fucking gun. So
the police have guns,
like, the cops have guns, and they're notoriously bad shots to the point where people make jokes about them because they use the guns.
They're like stormtroopers then.
Yeah, exactly. They're firing fucking lasers everywhere and can't hit shit. Because that's like the ultimate last step. Like, you just don't pull your gun here. And so when they rarely do, they've been known to miss the target several times, which is fine by me. But as far as like home defense, like, I've got a slingshot and I feel pretty safe. If that tells you anything. Like, I mean, I think everyone should be able to own guns. You can here, but it's a really, really long legal process. I know some farmers, you get them for hunting and pest control. I think everyone should have guns, of course, but it's just a totally different culture for sure.
Yeah. We also got samurai swords out there, I guess.
Oh yeah. Samurai swords, kitchen knives. Yeah. If you got that, like, you're pretty well defended. If I move back to like Northwest Indiana, south side of Chicago, I'm not going to feel nearly as secure with a slingshot and a kitchen knife. But it's just kind of a different world. But yeah, I love it here. People pretty much just mind their business. So, and another big thing, which I don't know if this will connect to your audience but maybe is hugely interesting to me, is the Catholic Western body guilt and sort of, I don't know, like sexual shame and guilt. That's not really a thing here, and it really tripped me out at first. But like, you've got the public baths and stuff like that. There's just not that sort of thing here. Like, people let their kids run around on the beach naked. There's no like lawsuits for, oh my God, you looked at my kid. And it's like, I don't know, and I don't know if that owes to the homogeneity of the society or what, but that's been a big kind of relief for me, not to have everyone always on edge about everything. I came from the background in public education where, I was in an inner city school for my teacher training, and I was afraid to even hug the kids when they hugged me because half the parents are crazy and you never know what you're going to get accused of. I come to Japan and, kids are jumping on your lap, punching the balls, like, and screaming like, and it's like, oh my God, is this okay? And they got a thing here too, which some people don't know. It's called concho, which the little kids do, which is like, they do this. And then they just shove it up your ass crack. And the first time that happened to me, I was like, what the fuck is going on? What are you kids doing? Like, this is stupid. And the parents are just laughing. It's really bizarre aspect of Japanese culture, but kids try to shove their fingers up your butthole and like laugh when they freak you out. But if that gives you any idea how weird it is here and just how not, sensitive people are. But there's a kind of trust here between people that for teachers and stuff, okay, you're a teacher, so you're not going to hurt my kid, which is totally different. And it's because it's an isolated little archipelago where that kind of stuff hasn't been such a big problem. So, you know, yeah, I don't know. There's a lot to talk about. It's just it's the Eastern thing for me is very comfortable as compared to the atmosphere I was raised in, which was kind of a hyper religious Western Christian kind of thing.
Yeah. I settled here in Vegas because I was looking for something, but I didn't want to make the big leap into becoming an expat and learning another language. And if I did choose something, it'd probably be Hong Kong, maybe Singapore. But I was just like, yeah, I'll settle for something in the United States. And when I came out here and I started just visiting with friends, I was living in Hollywood Hills at the time, which was a fucking nightmare in terms of like state control of everything. And not only that, but traffic and having to go up and down these little tiny winding roads that only fit 2 cars. But people park on one side of the road. So there's large portions of it where it's only 1 car length and you have to like back out and pull over just to let other people pass so that you can go. It was just a complete nightmare. Anytime you just wanted to go just to like, the store and pick up something like rolling papers or something, it was a complete nightmare. And then when I came out to Vegas, I was like, oh, there's actually a city out here. Well, what's it like? That we can have guns and in and out. I'm sold. I'm sold.
Yeah.
I'm sold. So,
Vegas is kind of like a foreign country, man.
Yeah, it is.
I mean,
like they're kind of like
been in those Hollywood Hills though, so I know what you're talking about. It's nuts. Yeah.
Nevada's the state that kind of goes like, we're going to create our own America with blackjack and hookers. Like literally, blackjack and hookers are here. So that's kind of neat.
Yeah, that's cool. I would like to visit Vegas again. I thought it was really neat. It's really bizarre. Just in the middle of nowhere, just this city pops up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
it started out as a train stop, and then the mobsters came through and were like, "Hey, we could set up casinos here and make a killing, and brothels. We can make a killing," and they did, and they pretty much took over the town. So
yeah. So when did you move to Vegas? Was that recently?
No, 2011. So I've been here for a while. And again, it's really you're basically getting all the things you like about California, but half the price and twice the temperature. But in both respects, because during the winter it gets cold. Sometimes it'll snow, and then during the summer you're getting not just triple digits. You're getting like 110, 115 at times. I think it got up to be like 113 here. Our high for this year was. It's starting to cool off now, but I sleep during the day, so I'm good. I don't have to deal with most of that shit. Yeah. So I love it out here.
That's cool.
Japan seems kind of neat too, but again, there's that kind of language barrier that it's always hard for me to try to learn another language. But I guess if I thrust myself into a different country, I kind of I'm going to be forced to do it. So I think I could probably work it out then.
For sure. And there's so many people here speak like rudimentary English too, which is something that surprised me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you communicate somewhere or another. But it's cool. Weather-wise is not so nice for me because it's very humid, and I don't do well with that. But,
neither do I.
Other than that, it's not bad.
I can deal with 110 degrees, so long as the humidity is, under 50, I'll be all right. Once it starts getting up there, I'm just like, kill me now. I could never live in Florida. So.
Oh, God, fuck that. Yeah. No way. Yeah, the first time I visited California or Los Angeles, I remember it was really hot, and I wasn't breaking a sweat, and it just tripped me out so hard. Like, wow, this is crazy, man. Dry heat, and I think we went to Phoenix, too, and that was pretty nuts.
Yeah.
Just feeling the difference that humidity makes.
Yep. So, do you have anything you want to plug? Should we wrap this up here, or anything else you wanted to talk about, or any questions maybe? Or
just plug. I don't know. I'm on Steemit. I got a couple accounts there, but I'm trying to promote the Voluntary Japan account, so that's at Voluntary Japan. I just started a Patreon, which I'm trying to focus more on. Voluntary Japan, YouTube. It's actually Voluntaryist Japan, but if you search Voluntary Japan, you'll find me. Twitter, Facebook. Yeah, that's about it, I think.
All right.
But it's been nice talking to you, man.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Hail Satan.
Hail Hail Jim Jesus.
Yeah.
Man. But, before we go, did you design your logo? I'm kind of admiring it.
Oh, the fistful of might? Yeah. I know my way around Photoshop.
This triangle with the double J and the I'm assuming it's an I for individualism or something with an anarchy kind of pyramid at the top.
Should we talk about my logo? I don't think I've ever publicly talked about it.
I like the mystique,
it's
but I'm kind
an interesting story. It's an interesting story. So I started noticing that a lot of like really good YouTubers, or not even just YouTubers, but just people in general had like these kind of logos. And I was looking like maybe I should hire someone on Fiverr to do it or whatever. And then I was like, no, I could probably do it on my own. Just make it really simple and basic. I can do it. I probably couldn't do all the crazy curvatures that I would pay someone from Fiverr to do it. But I bet if I make it blocky, I could, but cool, I could do it. And so the first thing I thought was, well, what's the one thing that'll piss most people off? What shape would it be? It would be a triangle because, Illuminati. Yeah. So I was like, okay, I can do that. I could put a couple of J's in there because that's what those hooks are at the bottom. They're both J's. So
yep,
one
that's what I thought, yep.
And then at the top, that's both an I and an A.
Yep, I was right. Yeah.
Now the interesting thing was my original concept was just to have the letter I. And I was like, well, lowercase I. And then when I was making it, I was like, oh, that's actually an A. That's kind of cool. But the reason why I chose an I is because I wanted an I inside of the pyramid.
Okay.
So the whole thing is just trolling conspiracy theorists.
That's funny.
And it's worked. There's been lots of times where I'll get people from the Zeitgeist movement or whatever coming to me and going like, I knew it. You're part of the Illuminati or something. Like your logo is telling about your opinion. It's like, great. I don't have to worry about you. I don't have to pay attention to you because it's a great filter. Because they filter themselves out. Yeah.
I got that on Steemit actually because you could see the picture in the background there. My friend made me. It's a block print of an owl. Oh, yeah. But like a lot of my Steemit thumbnails, I'll do something like this. It's always funny. They're like, I knew you didn't support Kokesh because you're Illuminati. I see you're winking out. It's like, thank you. Like same as you. Like now I can file you away.
Yep.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, and I noticed that in your picture.
Logo, man. It's so cool.
That's why I put that. I made sure that the owl was in the thumbnail for this video.
I figured
I was like, I know what this is.
I had initially thought you had gotten a screenshot of me doing this too, which I'm not. It wasn't, but I had initially thought, oh wow, he really went above and beyond.
No. It was the one where you were holding up your fingers and there was like pillars of voluntarism on the fingers.
The owl and yeah.
Sure. So I was like, that'll make it great. That'll make it great. I ended up using that. So yeah, thanks for coming on again, man.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, hail Satan.